Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where as promised, Jeb has done a bunch of pushing here, and we are now in this highly elliptical orbit. It's not amazing, right? And we've got a periapsis of about 20 kilometers here. Maybe I went a little overkill on that. 20 kilometers is a little on the low side, but I wanted to do this in one aerobrake pass, and so that will be great. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that we can say goodbye to these legs. We can probably say goodbye to the twitches as well. They're not going to be very protected by this heat shield. That's pretty safe to say. So we're going to be coming in quite quickly. I do think that we should go ahead and get rid of this weight here. So that'll just, slowly work its way out of there. A little faster if we rotate. There we go. We'll get rid of that weight so that we can slow down a little bit more quickly. And ultimately, I think this is going to be fine. We're going to have a relatively safe, if energetic, re-entry, but we may well not get these landing struts. They may not survive it, and we'll see if the twitches survive. But we've got a little ways to go here. Let's warp to about here. So we can see Kerbin down there. We can see that we're moving very slowly right now. And we're just going to build up a lot of speed as we fall towards Kerbin, and we only just miss it. So let's bring this right on in here. We can see it spinning underneath us. Definitely not the most efficient direction to go here, but it's fine. We got there in the end. And it only took Jeb a bunch of times pushing. So we're still pretty high up here. There's no doubt about that. I think that we should continue to warp forward to maybe about here. That's in about 7 minutes, and you can see just how much we're speeding up. We're speeding up a lot as we approach this periapsis. We're currently about 4 minutes from that periapsis, and I'm just going to, at this point, retract our solar panels. Those would definitely burn off at these sorts of speeds. And we'll see how this goes with our landing legs. I don't think they're going to survive. I really, really don't. So let's bring this on in here. 10x warp. Looks like we might be coming down on the dark side, which is slightly awkward, but it'll be okay. That's not the end of the world. We're going to be entering atmosphere now. Cool. Do we dare to physics warp, going 3,200 meters per second with a periapsis of 20 kilometers? Yeah, in retrospect, I should have made this be at least like 30 or 40. But here we are. I do think we'll survive this, but yeah, look at that. We're already seeing a heat gauge on this leg. These legs are not going to survive. That's fine. They don't need to. Are we going to hit water? Looks like we are. Yeah, so we really don't need them at this point. I would have liked to recover them, but here we are. We are slowing down, but the atmosphere is also getting thicker and thicker, so we're definitely not at peak heating yet, and we're going to have a few explosions. There goes one. There goes two. There goes three. And there goes four. Now, I'm not sure, I don't think this is the twitches. I think this is these modular girder segments, or actually those are cubic octagonal struts. I think that's what's showing there. Now we're seeing some heat gauges here on our twitches, but we're actually down below orbital velocity now. We are definitely not coming back out of this atmosphere. These heat shields just provide so much drag. It's insane how much drag they provide. So at this point, I don't think we're going to be seeing any other explosions. So all we lost were our landing legs. I'm content with that. That is fine. We're about to cross below the 1 kilometer per second threshold here. Beautiful. Drogues will be available now. So drogues are out. And that will, of course, slow us down pretty dramatically. And mains are available now, although we're still too high up for the mains. Let's warp on forward. There go the mains. And we're definitely coming down in water. There's no doubt about that. So downward we go. We don't actually need to be SASing at this point. We can just kind of wobble freely. And that'll be fine. Hopefully Jeb doesn't explode right before getting home on this ridiculous mission. That would be very awkward if he did. Okay, so there is our chutes deploying. Wonderful. Our main chute will deploy here in another like 500 meters, which is fine. And it's going to take us a little bit to fly on down to the surface. Yeah, 5 meters per second. Good thing we've got physics warp here. If only we could physics warp faster, which, to be clear, is one of the big advantages of KSP2. If only that game wasn't fundamentally broken. Actually, there was a patch not too long ago, and I haven't played it since that patch. Maybe that patch has changed things. Maybe. To be honest, I'm not really holding my breath on that. That game has a lot of flaws right now. I really do think that they released it into early access too early. Certainly for charging $50 for it. That was the real mistake, I think. If they had done an early access price like KSP1 did of, what was KSP1, like $23, I think? I think that would have been a lot more palatable for people. But here we are, we've splashed down, and we will recover that vessel. Of course, we're recovering very little of this thing, but we did get a lot of science out of that with our impactors. So that's absolutely great. Of course, with that amount of mass, we're not going to be going too much further than Moon or maybe Minmus. We're definitely not going multiplanetary with that impactor design. We would have to make some pretty major changes to it. And possibly refuel at our Duna refueling station. But look at all that science. 1503. Of course, we're maxed on our science, so no problem there. But we do need to get our payment for that contract. That was a medium difficulty contract, and that did not exit the Kerbin, the Kerbal system, or rather the Kerbin system. So that ends up meaning that we only get 50k for that, which hardly seems worthwhile, but let's go ahead and add that in. So that is... Okay, we have to do it this way. That's awkward. So 308, right? So we'll just mash this button until we're at 2.308. And there we go. Cool. It was a fun mission regardless. So, of course, we cannot deploy part as it is not on the surface of a planet. Okay. I guess we can't do that. So, do we have a exploration contract right now? A spacewalk near Moho. I have no memory of this. But that seems easy enough. We can just sail on over there with our Moho flyby. We don't have to be in orbit. Near Moho, though. So we might have to be in orbit near. Go on EVA in orbit of Moho. Okay, so we do actually have to enter orbit. So if we were to do our Moho flyby machine, I think we have one of those, right? Moho flyby. If I recall correctly, this thing had pretty much the fuel to enter orbit of Moho? Or was this the one that we had to refuel a bunch of times? I don't know, but we do actually have MechJeb at this point. We could use MechJeb for the actual planning of the encounter. That would get us there, in theory, relatively efficiently. So we can do something like this. So we would have... I don't think we bring Jeb on this one. We bring Valentina, since her experience is a little bit lower than Jeb's. And then we would bring probably just Staney and either Luke or Dunhat. Dunhat has the lowest. Oh, we only have a Mark 1 command pod on this? We've got a Probodobodyne Octo 2 on here. I guess we'd just bring Dunhat. Okay. And we can evaluate what this is going to be like for refuels, but if I recall correctly, we already redesigned this to be better at going to Moho. So if I recall correctly, this should be good to go, but if we need to refuel it, we can. So we'll launch this guy, and we'll just head on out. We'll get into an orbit of Kerbin. And once we're in an orbit of Kerbin, let's see what MechJeb makes of a transfer to Moho. I'm not convinced that we're going to use MechJeb here, but it does often come up with some pretty sexy transfers, to be honest. It does usually have low delta V transfers, but then high delta V braking maneuvers. To be clear. We can grab a gravity scan here. Okay. I guess we'll do that, and I'm trying to clip in here to be able to grab our experiment storage unit. There we go. Perfect. So we can throttle up, we can kill rot, or we can just go to surface up. But I'm going to go to kill rot. And I'm noticing a little bit of wiggling here. Let's just get out of here before the wiggling is too much. Apparently I didn't actually throttle up. Cool. Well, we're going to throttle up here. And off we go. This thing should have no real problem gravity turning. So let's just begin a gravity turn around now. Cool. We don't want to get too aggressive with it. That's for sure. But we're just going to make our way on up. I want to go into orbital mode here fairly soon. But we're just staying within the confines of the circle here and heading horizontal. Can we get a higher efficiency orbit? Yes. But this'll do. We've got about 22 kilometers for our apoapsis height thus far. I'm swapping over here. We can probably make our way over to prograde at this time. And yeah, we're basically there right now. So let's just sit here on prograde. SRBs detach. I was a little late on that because I wasn't actually paying attention to that one, but that's fine. 50 kilometer apoapsis height. At this point, I just want to go over to horizontal velocity up and hope that we don't tumble here. But I think we should be solid on that. Beautiful. So yeah, we're going to lose out on some vertical speed to the increased drag here from not being at the prograde marker, but that's okay. We've got about 15 seconds here until our separation. And that I'm a little concerned about. We're pretty far off of the prograde marker. We'll see how it goes. Clean. Okay. That could have been bad, but it wasn't. So we're just going to continue to burn here until we're at an apoapsis height of 100 kilometers, getting ourselves a good amount of horizontal speed built up. I love it. We can, at this juncture, ditch our fairing. The fairing is no longer necessary. And that will save us a little bit of weight. And I'm going slightly over 100 kilometers. There we go. Almost 101. But that looks solid. We've got ourselves a good amount of horizontal speed here, and we're just going to circularize this right on up. Beautiful. We'll hop on over to the node, and we're at 64 kilometers right now. We are in our coast phase, so we're going to extend these solar panels shortly. Oh, is this the one? This is the one that only has the one drogue chute. Okay, I should have checked that, but sure. That's fine. So we're going to extend these solar panels. There we go. Beautiful. And I want to check here. Oh yeah, this should be plenty of delta V. And this is actually not even, I think, the final amount of delta V, because we have this in the wrong position. So we would move this up like so and move this down like so. There we go. We have almost 13,000 delta V here. This should be more than sufficient. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes in our coast phase. Let's warp on forward. Minute and a half. 1 minute. 30 seconds. 20. 10. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Cool. So we're definitely going to enter orbit with lots of delta V to spare here. And from here, we're just going to see what MechJeb makes of a, let's see, maneuver planner. We'll see what MechJeb makes of a simple advanced transfer to another planet at this point. So we need a target, of course, for that. We'll just finish up this burn, and we could manually do this transfer. We probably have plenty of Delta V to make it happen, to be honest. But I want to get an in-space near around Moho going. That'll be great. Watching our periapsis here. Our apoapsis is going up a little bit as well. This is good enough. It's not a perfectly circular orbit, but that is absolutely fine. So at this point, let's see what MechJeb gives us. So we're going to set Moho as our target. 2,000 Delta V. Periapsis of 100 kilometers. I actually want this to be a periapsis of... like 30? Hang on, what's the minimum safe periapsis for Moho? Let's see here. We know there's not an atmosphere. I think this doesn't actually say what the minimum safe is, or what the low value is, in space low. But 30 should definitely be in space low. Let's target 50. I think that should be in space low. Do we want to include the capture burn? Okay, so that's going to be about 5,000 meters per second for the capture burn as well. So you can see here, yeah, this is like a 3,500 meter per second capture burn. And that's what I'm saying about its relatively low transfer burns, but the braking burn once we get there is pretty high. So do we want a lowest Delta V? That would be a departure in 90 days. ASAP would be departure at any time. It'd be a little bit higher. Okay, that's a lot higher for the capture burn. So we probably should do the lowest Delta V here. That's in 175 days. That seems fine. I'm just interested to see how MechJeb handles this one. So we'll create that note. Do we want to have MechJeb also be the one to execute it? Well, it kind of makes sense, actually, because we have no pilot on board this. So it kind of does. We're already orbiting Moho? Well, once we get there, I suppose. It kind of makes sense to have MechJeb execute this, since we have no pilot. So let's just see how MechJeb handles this. It'll be very interesting. We've not done this very much, but let's go ahead and run it for now. So we'll execute next node, and we'll just see what the autopilot makes of this. If it messes it up, we'll take over. Because, of course, we'll be able to fix whatever it does. We've got, 12,500 meters per second here. This is going to cost 500 to get there, and then we'll be in orbit at 50 kilometers, in theory, and then we'll do our spacewalk, and we'll head home. So, MechJeb is currently lining up for the burn, and it's going to broadly follow the same steps that we do when manually doing this, right? So it's the main thing that it's doing is it has this really nice capture timing here. You can see this is very close to the periapsis when it captures, and that's ideal. So that's absolutely great. We are not currently warping forward. I can't help but notice. Okay, now it's warping us. Cool. So this is going to be a fairly lengthy warp, and I'm just going to cut out this warp, and we will be back. Oh, wow. At this orbital speed, we're only going to 50x time? Okay, this is going to take a while. No doubt about that. Let's hop over to 10,000x time. 100,000x? Yeah, that's much better. I was going to cut this out, but MechJeb was trying to warp this at 50x time, and that's going to take a while, MechJeb. That is absolutely going to take a while. But I think it does make sense to use MechJeb when we have no pilot aboard. I think that's an interesting rule that we might want to do later on, is we have to do basically everything via MechJeb and autopilot for a different series, not for this series at this point. But we can bring this on in. We've got about 20 days until we depart. 10 days. Okay. We still need to be warping a little faster than this. Okay. Now MechJeb is controlling the warp. Down to 100x. Okay. So MechJeb has pulled us out of warp, presumably because we're pretty far off of the node. I assume that that's why. And we can see this is going to be a very long burn. I'm going to physics warp us as we approach over here, just to make that go a little faster. MechJeb is not physics warping this, for the record. Okay, and does MechJeb compensate for this exceptionally long burn? I don't know. So MechJeb is warping us forward a little bit further now that we are in position here, and you can see it's actually delaying our burn a little bit here by 20-some seconds. Now, I'm not sure why it's decided to do this, but we'll see. We've got about 50 seconds of burn left in our big orange tanks here. I am guessing we have some compression issues here. Surprisingly, no. Okay, so we're sitting on 4x time warp, and we'll work our way through this a little bit more quickly, pulling us back because we're about to have a staging event. MechJeb should stage this automatically. It did not. Okay, I staged that manually. So we're going to go back into... Okay, I don't like the way that that's rocking around. It's rocking around like that because of this. Okay, we are going to turn off our reaction wheel up here, down to 0 authority. That should fix that problem. Cool. So this is going to be like a 15-minute burn, right? So it's going to take a while. We are certainly going to be burning this for a bit here, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to cut out a significant portion of this burn. We will come back when we are much closer to this burn being over. We're also going to have a pretty substantial warp time here, aren't we? 164 days. That's actually not so bad. Okay, sounds good. Our braking burn on the other side, on the other hand, that's going to be a bit. But I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, this burn isn't over, but I'm popping back in really quickly here to point out I just noticed we had not extended this antenna. I have now extended this antenna. So if you're freaking out about that, don't. We extended the antenna before we left. Okay, we've got some time left in this burn. See you guys in a moment. Okay, so here we are, very, very close to this burn being done. That's the word I'm looking for. Fantastic. We've got about 45 seconds left in the burn, and we can see that we're doing some correction to it at this time. So that's fine. I'm going to take us out of physics warp as we do this last little bit of correction. We've got about 30 seconds left in this burn, and we'll see what the final MechJeb burn ended up looking like. That's going to be very interesting indeed. We can see that we're dipping over to some inclination change over here. And do we currently have an encounter? I don't think so. We've got about 70 meters per second to go here. And this is actually putting us into a polar orbit? I'm not sure that we actually want a polar orbit. So we might make some tweaks to this. Not to mention, I'm not convinced that this is going to be a great encounter to begin with. We'll see. We've apparently got about 12 seconds left in this burn, but we can see that this isn't going amazingly well at this point. Like, we're losing a lot of efficiency, right? So what I want to do here is I'm going to abort the node execution. We're going to ditch this. And for now, we're going to ditch this as well. For now, I just want to head over to, I think it's prograde that we want to be at. So we're just going to make some manual corrections to what MechJeb has here. So we don't need this anymore. That can go away. And let's see what we've got here. Yes, this is about right. So I want to burn prograde here. And we're just bringing this on in until we hopefully have a bit of a connection here. But we may need to make a small inclination change. That would be up over here. And actually, that's probably not a bad idea to do a manual inclination change. I do want to come in equatorially. That polar orbit is not doing it for me. So we're going to do something like this. We're going to make an inclination change to 1 and 0. Okay, and we can see that our timing isn't perfect, but after the inclination change, we can see about getting a different timing in here. So this is going to be a 500 meter per second burn. That's fine. This is actually still at 0.1 degrees. Can we fine tune that in? That's a hard maybe. We might be better off changing our actual timing on that. Okay, sometime around here and going this direction. There, that's 0.0. Cool. So we'll call that good, and then we'll look at what we want to do about this target position situation that we've got going on here. MechJeb definitely did not handle that all that well, did it? There's no doubt about that. Let's warp on forward, and we'll see about getting some form of a corrective burn once we are in this position. Perhaps at our apoapsis. We'll see what that ends up looking like. So we're going to need to do a corrective burn here shortly. This is not warping quite as quickly as I had hoped it would. I'm going to cancel that auto warp and try it again. No, we're still going at the same speed. Okay, well, it's fine. We're about to get that done. So we're going to warp forward that extra little bit here, and we'll get some manual corrections in here. Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure that that MechJeb solution was a good one. I think that MechJeb anticipated us having a higher thrust to weight than this, is I think what may have ended up happening, and we were just so far off on the thrust to weight that MechJeb's calculations were thrown off, is my guess. Let's get that inclination change done, and let's see about finding ourselves a nice encounter here, hopefully from the apoapsis. We'll see what that looks like. So in we come. We've got about 100 meters per second to go here. We've got plenty of delta V left. No doubt about that. Okay. Overshot that a little bit. Is that good? Yeah, that's fine. So no problem there. We're going to go to the apoapsis here, and if we were to just bring this in like so, that would give us an encounter here. It's not an ideal timing for the encounter, right? But that does give us an encounter here for 354 meters per second. I'm expecting this braking burn to be extraordinarily significant. That's quite a braking burn. Okay. That's a really major braking burn. No doubt about that. I hate that braking burn. 5289. Yeah, let's see about not doing that. That would be nice. So instead of doing this encounter here, we want this to be more efficient, to be... You know, really, we would be far better off. Can I select this maneuver? Apparently not. I'm just going to create a new one. We would be far better off, honestly, to push out our periapsis a tiny bit here. And then just do our braking burn here, and then do a standard home-in transfer. I think that's going to be our best bet. I'm sure MechJeb is going to come up with a different solution if we were to ask it, but I think we go this route. So we're just going to warp forward a little bit, and then we'll do a braking burn here, circularizing around Moho, which will be absolutely fine. Moho is in an elliptical orbit, right? So we don't actually need to circularize. And then we'll just go for a standard home-in transfer. That'll be a much, much better way to go, in my opinion. Yes, this is a little wasteful because we've overshot this delta V here, but I blame MechJeb for that. Why are we warping so slowly? I don't know why we're warping so slowly. I'm just going to manually warp this in a bit closer. Okay. Please stop the warp. Stop it. We start the burn in 2 days now. That's fine. We're just going to burn it now. It doesn't actually matter. So that's okay. We're just going to push out our periapsis here. And the reason it doesn't matter is because we're still so close to the apoapsis, right? This is fine. All I want to do is push it out to be around here. Okay. This is good. So we are going to add a maneuver here, and we just do a braking burn. And all we look to do is encapsulate this orbit. So this is speed we would have to bleed off anyway, right? Out of curiosity, if we were to toss in enough retrograde here to get an encounter, what would that look like timing-wise? Not great, so we're not quite going to do that. We're going to go to about here. Now, this is going to be a relatively long burn and a relatively long warp period, and it's past time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, when we come back, this will already be pretty much completed. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you. Oh, we're in physics warp. Okay. There we go, much better. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Shadowwolf, MLohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kintogan, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. We actually just finished the time warp. So I'm starting the burn, like, now. Let me hop over here. Well, not quite now. Let's just hop over here. 30 seconds, 20, 10, and burn is starting now. We'll have that burn done, and we'll probably be about to that staging event when we come back. See you guys then.